One question I get asked a lot is whether or not you can build big muscle using only body weight training. Now, body weight training has a lot of appeal because it allows you to train literally from anywhere and using very little to no equipment. Body weight training, of course, incorporates press ups, sit ups, pull ups, chin ups, body weight squats, and all manner of other exercises. But is this enough? Can you create enough resistance with just your body weight in order to challenge your muscles to grow? Well, fortunately, the answer is a resounding yes, as long as you know what you're doing. And fortunately, you do know what you're doing because you have these videos to hand. The basic rule is just to make sure you are creating the same damage and the same stress that we have been looking at so far in this video series. It's not enough to just go through the motions. You need to truly challenge yourself. In the case of building muscle with body weight alone, that is still going to mean using the mechanical drop set. You can't increase the weight, so instead you need to increase the challenge by simply making the moves more difficult. We've seen ways we can do this already. Clapping press-ups are harder than regular press-ups, for instance, because they require more acceleration in order to get through the same movement. You then have your one-armed movements, which again create more challenge. You can also do something in between a regular move and a one-armed movement, by rocking from side to side. For instance, you might perform a regular press-up, but while dipping down slightly more on one side than the other. This will allow you to keep the other hand in order to stabilize yourself and prevent you from falling, but it won't be used to provide much of the actual strength and power needed to move through the repetitions. You can do the same thing with a pull-up, a chin-up, or a tricep dip. So now you have your obvious progressions for mechanical drop sets using only body weight. You can go from clapping press-up, to rocking press-up, to regular press-up. Or you can go from clapping chin-ups, to rocking chin-ups, to assisted chin-ups. Another option is to change the angle of your movement in order to alter the amount of pressure you're fighting against. This is referred to technically as extending the lever arm. In other words, if you move the weight away from the point of contact with the ground, you're now going to make the movement more difficult. Similarly, you can make the move more difficult by reducing the number of points of contact with the ground. So press-ups can become handstand press-ups, or they can become Maltese press-ups with your hands down by your sides. Harder than either of those things is the planche, where you're going to be holding your body parallel with the floor by just your hands, like a press-up, but without your feet touching the floor. Some of these movements are incredibly difficult. Not only do they require a lot of power in the target muscles, they also require tons of functional strength, and you need to be able to coordinate and control all of the muscles in your body to work together. That means making your core tight enough to stabilize your body, and it means making your forearms and hands strong enough to balance you in a handstand. It means having enough control over your legs in order to keep them upright. These advanced moves can become entire full-body exercises. These aren't as useful for growing specific muscles because they don't isolate a target muscle. That means it's harder to exhaust or tear muscle fibers in any particular muscle because there are too many points of failure. But if performance is your interest, this is an incredibly useful way to train, and if you use the moves as part of a mechanical drop set, then likewise they become powerful tools to help you exhaust the fast-twitch muscle fibers first before going on to easier moves to flood the muscles with blood and metabolites. Once you can accomplish these more advanced moves, you start to open up a lot of possibilities to create incredibly challenging workouts wherever you are. And they just look awesome, like incredible party tricks. If you want to train to make other people stand up and take notice, then this is surely one way to accomplish that. The only problem? Well, these really are advanced moves. To add them to your routines, you're going to need an awful lot of power to begin with in order to perform them. So how do you get yourself to that point? Well, let's take a look. The problem here is that the jump from a press-up to a handstand press-up is so great, you're going to have an incredibly hard time building up to it. 200 press-ups still don't prepare you for a handstand press-up. Neither does a decline press up. So what can you do? The answer is to try and break down those bigger moves into smaller components that you can challenge yourself with. So a good place to start would be with the frog stand. You perch yourself just on your two hands with your knees by your elbows and balance there. Then try to do presses like that. Then try to progress from that position to a handstand position with your legs tucked in. As you can see, making these into smaller steps means you can get closer and see yourself progressing more easily. The next tip is to make sure that you really focus on what all your muscles are doing at the time. This training is not just for your muscles, it's for your brain as well. Specifically, it's for your motor cortex to learn the necessary techniques to perform these moves. Now let's take a brief interlude and think about a situation where our brain is fantastic at learning. During computer games. When you play a computer game, you'll be focusing on the game so much that your skill will improve rapidly. Some people can pull off incredible feats in games after not playing that long. What happens here is that they watch the game and they anticipate and visualize the movements they want to perform in the game. And then they try and do it. And if they get it right, their brain rewards them with a flood of hormones, including dopamine and others, to help cement the neural connections that lead to the movement. The more they repeat this, the more those connections are strengthened. And each time, the game rewards them with a chime or victorious music. And that only strengthens this effect and makes them feel even more accomplished. When things go wrong, they lose health, the screen flashes red, and there are very clear cues that this was the wrong move. Thus, the brain doesn't get that response and the movement is not enforced. But really, that sense of reward comes from the fact that they so badly want to succeed. It comes from the fact that they're incredibly focused on what they're doing and that they feel real anxiety and stress as they play and their health whittles down. We can learn anything if we approach it in a similar manner. In the case of working out, that means setting real goals for yourself, to transition into handstand with perfect technique, for example, and then paying close attention to the outcome of your attempt. Was that right or wrong? Should it be enforced or not? The more you focus on that muscle, the quicker you're going to be adapting, and your brain will learn how to pull off the perfect technique.